Ms. Foley, you're all set. Have a good meeting.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 11th edition of the Scituate Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtual as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. We have our diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. So the Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. Great. So we have our agenda, and I know Frank, who's just running a couple minutes late, wanted to add to the end just some updates on trails and any current open space. Does anybody else have any other additions or changes to the agenda?
Nope. So
Nope.
then I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as written with the add-on Jen just said about the open space.
Thank you, Penny.
Second,
Can I
Richard.
get a second? Ah, there we go. Second from Richard. Doug.
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Jen. Yes. Look, I remembered myself this time. I'm
There we
growing.
go.
You're getting used to this.
Scary.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you can see, everybody can see the agenda. There's a couple that have been requested to continue. So if you're here for any of those, we won't be talking about them, but let's start off by continuing the first two.
I make a motion, we continue 181 Edward Foster to October 2nd.
Second.
Thank you, Richard and Penny. Brendan.
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
Jen. Yes. Oh, and Penny.
Yeah, I made the motion, but
Oh,
yes,
right. So Richard.
that's okay.
Yep, I did too.
That's
Okay.
okay. Okay, so the second one will be 817 Country Way has requested to be continued until October 23rd.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Doug.
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Jen. Yes. Should we do 8 Westgate at the same time?
Sure.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we continue 8 Westgate Lane until September 25th.
I'll second that.
Oh, thank you, Doug. Richard.
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Jen. Yes. Okay.
Central Ave.
I don't have the papers in front of me, so we could.
Frank is here, so
Okay.
I think I can hear him squeak down the hallway. So we'll just read the public hearing notice for 0
Yeah.
Central.
Central.
Is there any other business we could knock out while we, like, voting on minutes or anything like that?
You could go down to some administrative and try to do some administrative and an administrative item or so.
Okay.
Oh, somebody requests to amend orders.
17 Old Farm Road.
Where's that?
It's C under,
Oh, yeah, I see.
Okay, so request to extend orders. Amy, is there any background on that one?
No, just the background is that the applicant, so this is a first extension for this project, and they just, with the pandemic, hadn't had a chance to start the project. So they're looking
Makes
for
sense.
a few years, yeah.
Okay,
How many years is it for, Amy?
3.
So I'll make a motion to extend the orders for 17 Old Farm Road for 3 years.
thank
So-
you.
Who wants to second it?
I'll second it.
All right, thanks, Doug. Richard,
yep,
Brendan,
Yes.
Jen, yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Certificate of compliance, but we don't have to vote on that.
Right,
But
well, those are
you-
pretty easy. That 52 Oceanside is for a project that was permitted in like 1982, so
Uh-huh.
it's 68-119. And I mean, it was for the new house back then, replacing the house, that type of thing. So that's really just cleaning up the title for that property. 19 Blanchard was a pool project that looks like it's built in compliance with the orders. So both of those we're ready to issue.
good.
The orders of condition. I'll make a motion. We accept the orders of condition for 28 Kane Drive is written and 22 Indian Trail is written.
Thank you, Penny.
I'll second that, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Brendan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen, yes.
Okay.
Man.
So
So I think we can go back to public hearings if Frank's on the call.
that's to extend.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Sorry for the delay.
You
No,
just
we've
didn't
been
want to do all that
working.
administrative
I-
stuff, Frank.
I didn't, Jen, and it sounds like you got it all knocked off, which is just dandy. And it looks
Yeah,
like
I'm here
Andy will
for
be
ya.
on with us in a couple of minutes too, so that'll be good. Thank
So
you.
we're ready to go on 0 Central Ave, Frank.
Is that what you want to get done, Penny?
That's the next one.
So
we
you guys
continued the
contin-
other two.
Yeah, we already did
continued-
all that stuff.
Okay.
We're way
So-
ahead of you, Frankie.
Let's see. Just finding the papers to read here. On September 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Michael and Jill McAvoy for work related to constructing a dock at location 0 Central Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website. And we have somebody from Morse Engineering.
Yes, this is Greg Morse.
Evening,
Hey,
Greg.
Good evening. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner, Michael and Jill McAvoy. The property is identified as 0 Central Ave, which is directly across the street from 234 Central Ave. We filed a notice of intent for construction of a residential dock and pier project at this property. The existing site, it's approximately 7,000 square feet. It's a vacant lot. It's gravel and cobblestone, previously undeveloped. Central Ave is on the right-hand side of the plan that you're looking at on the screen. Off to the left is the South River. Off of the South River is a 200-foot riverfront area. The South River obviously being a tidal and coastal river. Hammerock being a barrier beach. The site is also located in land subject to coastal storm flowage, a FEMA zone AE at elevation 15. The proposal here is to do a driven timber pile pier. It would be 4 feet wide by 121 feet long, starting at the upland along Central Ave and extending out toward the river. Off the end of the pier would be a 40-foot aluminum gangway in 2 8x16 floats. This was laid out in accordance with DEP's small dock standards. The location is centered on the lot. It provides depth below the floats at the low tide elevation or low tide time. It's in line with abutting docks to the north and to the south, which we've depicted on the plan here. This would be our first stop obtaining an order of conditions. After we obtain an order of conditions, hopefully we would be moving on to DEP Waterways and the Army Corps of Engineers seeking the Chapter 91 licensing with those departments. DEP had no comments on their website and issued a file number. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, Amy?
Yeah, so this would be a project that you guys could condition under orders. It would be a typical project that you would condition, and with a bulk of the review performed at the waterways state level and Army Corps level. Few things do stand out, not necessarily just about this project, but in general. One of the things that came up recently was making sure that the ramps to either get on and or down to the water are removable in the off season. That would be an important thing to make sure occurs, and proper storage of the floats in the winter, not on the salt marsh.
Okay. And my apologies. Who do we? Oh, good. So this is in your neck of the woods, Richard.
I guess my only questions, I don't have any problem with it at all. My only questions would be, as Amy said, get the ramp out of the way and get all that stuff out of it in the winter. So I'd like to know where it's going to be stored, because it really shouldn't be, I guess it can't be in the dunes.
No.
Sure. So
Go
we've
ahead, Greg.
we've designed the ramp to be, an aluminum ramp, and that would be either raised and kept on the wooden pier over the winter, or it would be put on the floats, and the floats themselves would be hauled up the river and removed at the boatyard.
That's a better plan. The second one, because
Yeah.
you just don't know how high or how nasty the winter storms can be. They haven't been for the past few years, but they can be. So I like that second one better. Frank, that's all I have. The rest of it seems fine to me.
Okay, thank you. Doug?
Good questions, Rich. Yeah, that was kind of the same question I had. So yeah, well, it sounds good.
Penny?
I'm all set, thank you.
Jen?
I'm all set.
Okay. Andy, is Andy on yet?
I'm here, yep.
Oh, great. Your thoughts?
No additional questions for me.
Brendan?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody in the audience?
So raise your hand using the raise hand feature on the bottom of the screen if you have anything. Saying nothing, Frank.
Okay. The only other thing that's been brought to my attention is some of the past projects that we've conditioned, we've allowed that ramp and maybe some of the end of the walkway to get onto town property, like Central Ave is defined there, and then there's a strip which I don't know whether people park there or it's gravel or whatever, but it looks like in this one the whole project is on the applicant's property, at least towards the street. So I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's important for us.
Oh, to watch for.
Yeah, we got Greg might want to comment. if you want to let Greg go back on.
Where'd you go?
You are correct. All of the work is on the applicant's property. It's outside the town right of way.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else. I mean, it all looks like similar to what we've approved or conditioned in the past. Heights and decking spacing and all that sort of stuff is all compliant as far as I can see.
If there isn't anything else, I'll make a motion to close.
And I'm sorry, did anybody mention the harbor master? He was on board with this?
We received comments from the harbor master, okay with this.
Okay. All right,
So Rich made a motion to close. I'll second it.
that's motion by Richard, second by Penny. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Number 6, Elm Street. Lot 6, Elm Street. Thanks, Jen. On September 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing on Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws to amend order conditions issued under DEP file number 66-2997 regarding the application of Kristen and Robert Conahan for work related to the construction of a single-family dwelling associated site work at location 6 Elm Street, Lot 6 Elm Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda.
Yeah, and so this is Greg Morse, and this is an amendment to existing orders for a project that you had conditioned about a year ago. So Greg, if you want to go through the amendment request.
Sure. Again, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, representing the property owner, Robert Christina Cunahan, Lot 6, Elm Street. As was just stated, this is a request for an amendment. This is an order of conditions that the commission issued about a year ago for construction of a new single-family home at this property. Since the time that the permit was issued, the house footprint itself changed a little bit. So the amendment here is to revise the plan for the new house footprint, which is slightly smaller in size, as well as in the backyard, we had approved a swimming pool. We've relocated the swimming pool slightly and reduced the size of the swimming pool as well. The overall limit of work remains exactly the same. This was subject to a stormwater permit that was issued by the planning board. The planning board has reviewed this. They have peer reviewed it and issued their approval on these amended plans. None of the work is closer to the wetlands than what was previously approved. This complies with the 50-foot minimum setback for all work. And again, it's smaller of a house and smaller of a pool footprint. I think it's worthy of an amendment.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, so that's great. Less disturbance in the buffer, going through all the proper channels. We'd like to see that. Sign off from the peer review engineer for the stormwater modifications that were sought for, I guess, for the common driveway coming in, and some stormwater management. But yeah, so I think this is definitely something that we can incorporate the new site plans into an amended order, and any relevant stormwater docs. Yes.
Okay. Doug?
No real questions other than procedural one. This amendment, since everything got smaller, he doesn't have to amend the stormwater runoff calculations, does he? We don't have to go through that process. So it's obviously if it was compliant, if it was appropriate for a larger build out, then it would be appropriate for a smaller build out. So do we have to? And it's just kind of a procedural thing. I'm curious why we file an amendment when things got less than what was approved.
The planning board did require us to submit revised calculations for the entire site with the smaller building. Those had to
Really?
go back to the peer reviewer.
No kidding.
Those were signed off, yes.
Okay. Well, that's what I was hoping to avoid, but we're not the one that requested it, so I don't feel. All right. Well, I just that okay. I don't need to editorialize. but-
Yeah, and for us, Doug, we're accepting a new plan set and the new calculations as part of the approved project. So,
Okay. So that we actually amend the orders themselves with
yeah, it's a
Um,
new recorded document, and you did discuss this project actually back in June. I'm not sure if you were at that meeting or not. And that was,
I remember looking at the original one. Yeah, I do.
yeah, the commission weighed in that they would want to see an amendment on this project rather than a new
Did.
notice. Or yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know, Brendan,
I don't have any questions on this.
Andy,
I'm okay on this one.
Jen,
All good.
Penny,
Small is better.
anybody in the audience?
Did I vote, Frank?
Seeing
I thought
none.
I'm sorry, maybe I
Well,
asked your
if-
opinion, but I'm getting back to you. So Doug,
Yes. Just
and
Have I
Penny,
been eliminated as
Penny,
well?
did I, and Richard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I was kind of going backwards here or sideways, I guess maybe is better.
Upside down.
All right. So now I've lost track. You threw me off, Doug. Did we vote this?
Audience.
Audience.
did.
Yeah, anybody in anybody in the
Nobody.
audience?
Nobody raised a hand.
Oh boy. It was a long day,
Okay,
long wet day.
Very. Okay,
Okay, and I don't have any comments other than I sort of repeating what Doug already said. It's hopefully this is if they're shrinking the project and making it easier, I would think we would make it as simple for the applicant as possible, not more complicated.
no, that never happened.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we close lot 6 Elm Street.
and that's how about a second from somebody?
I'll second that.
I think that was Brendan.
It was
It
Brendan.
was both Doug and I, so.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I'll give it to you. All in favor? Richard? I see Richard walking around. Doug?
Yes.
Well, he's talking to, I think he's off.
He's off, like his switch is off or he's off?
Yeah, his switch is off.
Can nod his head or something. Penny?
Hi, yes.
Jen?
Hey, Doug, look who's here.
Yes.
Oh,
Andy?
Yeah.
Here we go. And Brendan.
Jake.
Yes.
Jake.
Yeah, Jake is back. All right, Frank,
Yay.
yes. Thank you.
2 months trip to God knows where.
All right.
No kidding. He's
Oh, I'll have to tell you the tale later.
All right, let's stay on track until the
Yeah,
end,
we
and then
will.
we can do stories. 59 Glades Road, this is an amendment. It's continued from 8/7. And we have somebody from Morse Engineering.
Greg Morse is here, and you did receive new information on this. Hopefully you received it.
Go ahead, Craig.
Excellent. Thank you. Gregory Morse, representing the property owners Ed and Tara Walsh, their property at 59 Glades Road. This is an amendment, again, to an existing order of conditions. The project was originally approved as a raise and rebuild of a single-family home. The majority of that work has been completed at this point. The house is occupied. But we're seeking an amendment There was originally a pool proposed on the south side of the project, which is the left side of the plan here. That pool location has slightly changed and revised shape. We are also seeking the amendment to correct two construction issues that popped up during construction. One being a retaining wall was built slightly encroaching into the 50-foot buffer zone, and then a deck along the back of the house, which is elevated, but the sonotubes for that deck again encroach onto the 50-foot buffer zone as well. We provided with this application a mitigation plan, and we've quantified the areas here of impact. The encroachments of that retaining wall and the encroachment of that deck make up approximately 360 square feet of area. We had Brad Holmes, our professional wetland scientist, put together a mitigation plan at the rear of the property, which is where the wetland is. A 3-to-1 mitigation plan. You can see plantings that Brad's proposed in that area shaded in green, so that we'd actually have a buffer to the wetland, which is just off locus, the line in blue. Right now, it's currently essentially lawn right down to the wetland. There used to be a garage back there, essentially right on the lot line, before the house here was constructed. So that area in green represents 1,260 square feet. Again, it exceeds a 3-to-1 ratio of the encroachment that was made into the 50-foot buffer. The pool itself is outside of the 50-foot buffer, complies with that requirement, complies with the side yard setbacks. And the pool was originally proposed in that location. It was just a slightly different shape. I turn it over to you.
Okay. Amy, do you want to?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that the mitigation plants improve the project status a bit from what we saw, just with the wall and the 50 and the wall and the fill and the 50. Still not particularly happy with that situation, as we really were trying to achieve the 50-foot no touch disturb with the bylaw requirement. I guess if we did condition this project, which I think you could, we would want to make sure that the plants are planted and that they have a survival rate and growing seasons before issuing a CFC. Yeah, I think that's about all I have.
And if I may
Okay.
add one more thing, we added 3 conservation posts along those plantings as well to prevent future encroachment into that area.
Thank you. Okay. Andy, I know you had some concerns with this. You want to take the lead on this one?
Sure. Yeah, good to see the restoration. And I like the ratio. If I'm looking at this though, am I right that there's a chain link fence that sort of goes through that area and then it's sort of in the back of it,
Aye.
maybe off property? Is that right?
There is a chain link fence that runs at the back of that property. Correct.
Okay. I guess that might be something I want to see improve. Like if we put it seems funny we put the posts up along that area of replanting, but then there's a fence that's sort of behind it. So it feels like it still invites people or indicates that folks should be back there. Like if the applicant would be willing to move that fence in front of the restoration, that might help out and keep people out of there.
We can certainly do that.
Okay. I think that would really keep people out, I guess. So yeah, if we can do that, I'd appreciate it. But I guess that's all I have for now.
I think that's a good catch. I didn't see that. Thank you. Brendan?
Yeah, so I'm glad to see that ratio as well and everything. And I guess my question is, and this has probably been covered, but I'm just not remembering. But now we have this retaining wall which goes into the 50. What's going to be put in between the wall and the pool? Is that going to be a patio of some sort, or are we're not touching that since it's within the 50?
It's a pervious patio. It's a stone with crushed stone under it.
Okay.
Pervious
All right.
patio.
All right. I guess that was my only question. And I guess that's been addressed already. So yeah, nothing else.
Okay. Jen, this is your neighborhood. Sorry, I should have let you.
No. I guess I'm wondering, and I don't know the answer, but if the addition of the patio changed any of the runoff or calculations or anything like that.
So we had a patio around the pool area previously approved
Okay.
by the commission. And there was not a stormwater report required on this. Because again, it was a raise and rebuild. We didn't
Okay.
add more than 25% impervious area.
With the changing of the pool shape and the addition of this new proposed retaining wall and fence, does that go over the 25?
No, it does not.
So I think there was a retaining wall proposed, but it was proposed to be outside the 50. Is that right, Greg?
Yes, it was right along the 50.
So, and even with the added increase in area with the pool, with that wall sticking out, it doesn't trigger the stormwater in terms of calculations.
No, it does not.
Jen, do you have any other thought? Go ahead.
Does it get, like, what's the percentage increase?
So it's when you add an impervious surface, and what we have here is the swimming pool is actually smaller in size than what was
Okay.
originally approved. So that's an impervious surface. So that actually goes down. The patio around it is a pervious patio, which allows water through it. So that doesn't count toward your stormwater runoff.
Okay. I mean, I applaud their belief that the fence will last through a winter, but that's for them to worry about. I guess I don't have anything else for right now.
Okay. Penny?
Yeah, can we go back to the chain link fence? Cause that was my problem too. Andy, I don't understand why it was going way out. I mean, it looks like it was going originally off their property. It shot up towards FWA 3.
Mm.
Greg, you will assure us it will be in front of the plantings and in a straight line, please?
Yes.
All right, because I don't get that at all. I mean, that went off property. That's a no. That was a real no.
Yeah, it absolutely shouldn't have. You know, like I said, there was a building back there, so I'm sure during construction and with that building that was demolished, there was encroachments over that line. It absolutely shouldn't be there though, and we're willing to move it.
No. Oh, okay. They have to move it forward because I'm still not crazy about the retaining wall, but at least they are willing to put up a decent amount of mitigation. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. Doug?
I think everyone's covered everything by the time you got to me. So I'm
Lucky
good.
you.
I'd like to say something again.
Go ahead.
Circle back. Well, so I'm just looking at the plantings for the mitigation. And I just question whether they're truly salt tolerant for that area. I mean, there is some inundation that does happen with that salt marsh, and I'm looking at the plants that were planted for across the Gulf there at 36 Bailey's, and I see that those are more like, you know, they're a little hardier, salt tolerant. I'm just wondering if we should go back to Brad and confirm that these are going to survive in the inundated salt conditions.
Makes sense.
Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to talk to Brad about that. I think this is just this is slightly higher in elevation than across the marsh. You know, we're above elevation 7 here as opposed to over there. We were down at elevation 4.5 and 5. So we really were being inundated with the high tide, as opposed to this is going to be a lot less so. But
Excuse me.
I can talk to Brad and just confirm that this is appropriate given the scenario. Sure.
Let's go back to Jen. I don't know if she, oh no, who was it, Doug? Did you have?
Thanks,
No,
Penny.
I was, yeah, I think, oh, thank you, Penny. Yeah. No, I think you guys have covered everything. So I'm good with it.
Okay, Richard? Thank you, Doug.
Oh, Richard went to sleep.
Do we have anybody in the audience?
I can see Richard is speaking and unmuted. I think he's having a microphone issue.
Yeah. He's.
I'm
Somebody
asking him to
probably said he
unmute.
shit
Yeah,
himself.
just mute. Rich, okay, there you go. No, turn up your volume maybe. Because,
It's so far away that the signal's just not getting up here.
oh, it's because he's in Hummerock.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that.
They had 4 in the country. Well, Frank, do you have any questions while we wait for Richard?
Well, I thought I'd go to, if we don't have anybody in the audience, I have a couple of comments, sure. So Andy, I think that was I didn't even see that fence there, but that should definitely be gone from there. It goes out into the marsh, and all of that should be removed if it even needs to be installed.
That's existing, isn't it? The fence?
Yeah, but it's kind of in a weird spot, like it comes off the stairs and then it goes out past the property line from what I can see out into the marsh.
It's on the neighbors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then it comes back in and kind of through this and
No.
around. So I definitely think that if it's going to have to be there, it should be on the house side of the mitigation, not on the other side. And I honestly don't understand why the mitigation just doesn't go from property line to property line. I mean, maybe they want to keep a little space like they did in the back, just so they don't encroach. But is there a reason, Greg, that doesn't continue to the property lines on either side on the width?
How it was laid out, it was, well, on either side, it was inside of the chain link fence on either side.
Got it.
But I'll take a look at that. See if
So
we can-
without the chain link fence, I don't see why it just can't. I mean, it looks like there's a 7-foot right of way. Maybe it shouldn't be planted in the right of way, but I don't see why it can't go to the right of way, and it can't go to the southern property line. You know, if you want to keep that small area, just not to encroach on the other property, it'll grow over anyways.
I'm wondering, I'm trying to find the original plan. I don't believe we permitted a fence.
I think it was
There you
there.
go.
There, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
I don't know what I did or what happened. Anyway, can I tell you the only thing I was gonna say?
We're waiting to hear from you.
I knew you would. I want to make sure that there's either a 2-year or a 3-year growth period for all these plants before anything's signed off.
Good
At
point.
least a couple, yeah.
That's all.
So we're questioning the type of plants, the size of the mitigation area, and the fence seems to be on our list of things.
Amy, can you confirm that the fence was never permitted to begin with? Because I don't believe I have emails where
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
can
seeing.
bring up the original plan right now. Fun.
There was not a proposed fence on the plan, no.
I don't recall it being there before.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on any of my versions. So it feels pretty clear that we should be able to, that's an additional enforcement issue.
Well, while we're conditioning this project, Greg, is the owner, are they looking for a fence?
I would imagine it's his intent to keep a fence back there.
Why?
Why?
Yeah,
I'd have
It's
to
not
ask.
something that
I mean-
we've enabled any of the other marsh abutters to do. So
we're in the 50
it
foot.
feels,
Well,
yeah.
I think we had that discussion at Hollitt Street and we asked the people to pull their fence. It was for their animals and we asked them to pull it away. There's also some DEP guidelines on the fence and habitat and movement.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the habitat thing.
So maybe if they do want the fence there, they ought to show it on the plan, but it ought to be compliant with those guidelines. If the commission agrees, but that's a good point, Jen. If it wasn't even conditioned and that got
Yeah.
added along with the retaining wall and the deck.
He's pushing the envelope then.
Yep.
Well, I
Amy?
mean, I think you could condition removal of the fence, or movement of the fence. Greg's already said that the owner will agree to move it, relocate it. So I guess it comes down to whether or not you want it at all, but as long as it's installed. I don't know, it's in the 50, right? But it's
Yeah.
area had been disturbed, but as long as it's installed, so it lets wildlife migrate, it's probably okay.
I mean, the part that we do need to remember is that this was a pre-existing property with a lawn there. I don't know what else was there before that, but
But was the fence there?
well,
No.
No, doesn't appear it was.
okay. But if people are putting up a fence, I'm assuming it's for their pets or whatever. I don't know.
Right, but we haven't I feel like we've had in the interest of consistency.
Yeah.
This is a no enclosing fence. I think you could probably argue for something along the sideline, but not along the
marsh.
back.
There's other ways to keep
Okay.
the animals in.
I can
You don't
discuss it with
need-
the applicant.
Or animals out.
No, you can't. Well, all right. But that's the whole thing. And the wildlife has to be able to migrate, Frank, down there.
But
That was one of the things on Hollitt Street that we argued.
Yeah, but so what we asked is that the fence be pulled away from the edge of the marsh.
And
Which-
raised.
Yep. So
Well, I thought what had been requested that they pull the fence on the front side, the house side of the mitigation.
Mhm.
Yes, but they're still in the 50, Doug.
Yeah, but right, the existing lawn, I mean, it's in the 50 there. I'm just thinking if they do have a dog or something, they want to be able to put a fence up there, they'd have to come back unless it's a hard line policy that there's no fences in 50-foot buffers. I don't know.
Well, I believe what DEP was saying that you have to make sure there's room at the base of the fence between the ground for animals to get through, small animals.
then that either wouldn't work for a dog then. Because they go under it.
Well, there's other ways you can keep your dog in your yard. I have one and I don't have to have a
Like a visible fence or something?
Yeah.
I forgot about that idea. Okay.
and it works,
But
believe me.
we just did this at Hollis Street. and what I
Yeah, so
think
we
what-
gotta be consistent with Howard Street, Frank. That's not fair to them.
And we we precluded any fences within the 50. I don't recall that one off.
At Howard Street, they were allowed to have their fence, but they had to move it forward. I forget how many feet it was, Frank, but they had to move it forward. And they also had to make sure that there was room between the ground and the bottom of the fence for critters to go under. The deer and that stuff, they're gonna jump the fence if they want to get in their yard bad enough. But for the smaller animals, there had to be a way for them to get in and out.
Okay.
That's up to Amy, I
Right,
think. and
So
Gordon.
Amy, the question I guess is, do we want to try to close this and list those pieces, the movement of the fence, if that's what we agree to, the expansion of the mitigation area, and a review of the plantings, maybe increase the plantings a little bit in number if we're going to also see that area get enlarged. Are we okay to close this with
Yes. I
those
think
things?
I would say yes.
Okay,
Let's go for it.
and you can put those into the orders.
Well, so is it remove the fence or is it move the fence?
Move.
Well, let's circle
Oh, I
back.
don't know.
So Richard,
Well-
move or relocate?
Isn't move and relocate the same?
Mo-
You mean
I'm sorry,
remove or relocate?
remove
relocate.
or relocate.
Relocate.
Okay, Doug,
I'm good with relocating.
Penny,
Relocate.
Jen,
Whatever is consistent with one hollet. My
Okay.
original preference would be remove though.
okay. Andy,
Yeah, I was trying to find, I think there were very specific things from DEP about the height it has to be raised and the limit on the height it can be at the top. So as
Yep.
long as it's in the DEP guidelines and moved forward, I'm okay with it. I think that's what we did.
and
Yeah.
Brendan,
Do we all have to agree on this?
Oh,
No,
No.
no.
majority rules, Brendan, but you can say
Well,
your
I guess then I could just pass.
well, you and Jen could take a stand and we'd respect that.
Absolutely.
I'm not happy that a fence showed up here if it wasn't on the plan. So my preference might be remove, but relocate, I suppose, is fine.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's picking that off because that's, my eyes must be getting bad, but
well, it's kind of hidden back there, Frank.
it's certainly not in bold. Okay,
Okay, and so then so that's the fence. We're gonna take a look at the plantings to make sure that these are kind of
Salt tolerant.
productive and salt tolerant. And Frank, what is this about an increase in area?
well, if we're gonna increase, I want to take it from property line to that 7-foot right of way line. The south property line,
Side to side.
and then on the north side, take it to that 7-foot right away. And then maybe increase the number of plants because we're increasing the area.
Okay, so subject
and I
to
think
revised
it-
planting tent
Yeah,
plan.
and I think Richard had a piece in there that we want to review this after either 1 or 2 years to make sure that
At
they're,
least 2 years, Frank, at least 2 years.
Yeah,
we got them, is that everything? And I think that's being fairly reasonable, given the
retaining wall
and the deck.
Yeah.
in the deck, yeah. Okay,
Okay.
can I make a motion, Frank?
Yes,
I make a motion to close
with those stipulations.
with all those stipulations will go in
Okay,
the order.
that's Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second that. Oh,
Who was first? I
you
missed.
just could pick your favorite one, Frank.
Oh, just anybody.
All right.
Put him on the
No,
spot.
but Penny already made the motion.
Give it
So
to Doug.
Doug.
Thanks.
Second from Doug. Richard,
Ah,
Yeah, I'm good with all the additions, yes.
Jen. Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
thank you. I got everybody right.
Yes, let's go on to Spalding.
15 Spalding, this is continued. The application is it Kelly and Stephen Newcomb?
Oh, place footings.
Right,
Ah.
and on this one, we don't really need to do anything on this one except close it. We were just waiting for a DEP file number, which did
Oh.
issue 3069, and it came in with no comments.
Yeah, we promised
Okay.
we would close an issue if that happened.
Yeah, we can close an issue.
Okay, I'll take a
Oh.
motion.
I'll make a motion to close and issue 15 Spalding Ave.
Just before we do that, is there anybody in the audience?
Oh.
Okay, go ahead, Penny.
Okay, I make a motion that we close and issue 15 Spalding Ave.
I'll second that.
Richard, all in favor, Doug?
Yes.
And Jen, I'm assuming is out.
Did she
Andy?
leave?
Yes.
Brendan,
No, I'm here. I got accidentally muted.
Okay,
Seems to be
but
a muting
I-
issue.
No, I closed the window and had to rejoin. It's nobody's fault but mine. I'm good with this.
okay,
Yes.
thank you, Jen.
And I'm a
And
yes as
Brendan.
well.
Yes. Okay, so I think we got and Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Okay.
8
Garfield.
Westgate Lane.
No, we already did 8 Gus Westgate, but we didn't do 4 Garfield.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4 Garfield
Opening it, yeah. Oh, no,
is continued.
it was
Was-
continued. Yes, so we're just going to turn this over to Greg Morse.
Whoa, wait a minute. Yeah. We are right now.
okay, yes.
Okay. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer representing 4 Garfield Realty Trust. This is a notice of intent application to replace a bulkhead wall along the South River at the property at 4 Garfield Street. That's in the Hummerock section of town. As you may recall, there is an active order of conditions on this property for a raise and rebuild of the single-family home at this site. That single-family home is significantly complete at this point. I expect we're going to be filing a certificate of compliance in the next couple of months for the home project. But this is a separate notice of intent just to deal with the wall. As you look at the plan here, Garfield Street is at the top of the page. The South River, which is a coastal and tidal river, is on the left-hand side of the page. And currently out there right now, there's a cinder block wall, which abuts the South River. That cinder block wall, I don't know how old it is, but it's fallen into disrepair. You can see in the pictures that, it's got significant cracking. There used to be 2 of these lighthouse structures, one at each corner of the property. Over the summer, one of those lighthouses fell into the river itself.
Oh, dear.
What we're proposing to do is we're proposing to drive new timber piles immediately in front of the wall here and use tongue and groove marine grade wood to build a new bulkhead wall. It's essentially in the same exact footprint, the same location as the cinder blocks. The cinder blocks would then be removed down to grade behind the new timber wall. This is our first stop. This would require a Chapter 91 license with Army Corps of Engineers and the DEP Waterways program. I turn this over to you. Questions or comments?
Richard?
This is a problem that a lot of houses are going to have if they already haven't, both in the southern part of the peninsula as well as closer up to where I am in the middle of the peninsula.
They're all going to be losing their lighthouses?
Not the lighthouse part. That's a good question. By the way, are you going to rebuild the lighthouse or touch that in any way? Separate question. Don't worry about it. The wall, it's needed, and as long as they get Chapter 91 and they're doing it the right way, I think it's a good thing, not a bad thing at all. I would want to know if it's all going to be accessed from the water or if there's reasonable access around the house.
I think there's reasonable access around the house for this one here.
Thank
That
you.
would be good.
I
Doug,
guess that-
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Rich, for that, your perspective there, but, it looks pretty clear to me. So no, I don't think I have any questions.
okay.
For whatever it's worth, I'm sorry to interrupt, but most of these walls are somewhere between 70 and 80 years old.
Time to replace.
That's not so old anymore, Richard.
No, but with the beating they're taking with the river, it is old. It is.
Is it Penny?
I know
No,
what
it
you're saying.
isn't.
Wait a
Richard,
minute.
shame on you.
I'm older than Penny is. So,
I
be
know, so
careful.
shame on you. I think
Um,
he's 2 years older. You
Penny?
old dog.
Yep.
Penny, your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts, no, I think it's wonderful. They just have to go get the 91 license. That's all.
Okay. Jen?
I actually do want to know if they're going to keep or rebuild the lighthouse, because it would be, like in a resource area. Or maybe that's part of the Chapter 91 license.
I think that, I don't know.
Well, I
Yeah,
think that's something you could put in the conditions if you think that it should or should not be there.
I
I-
don't
It's not
have
showing
a-
up on the plan.
I don't
just-
have a preference, but I think it should, if it's going to be there, it should be in the plan.
Greg, I don't see a lighthouse in this plan at all. Are they just planning to get rid of them?
yeah, it's proposed to be removed.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, one's down. Second one coming.
okay. Andy?
I do not have anything to add.
Okay. Brendan?
I am all set, thank you.
You have anybody in the audience? So Greg, I'm just trying to understand the detail a little bit. It looks like there's a 12-inch driven pile, 8 feet apart. Then they're putting some sort of
A dead man.
pressure treated wood. Well, but then they're going to run another piece of wood running between the posts, and then they're going to drive the tongue and groove marine grade lumber, kind of like sheeting,
Yes,
down into the ground. And then the dead man is going to actually hold that back.
correct.
Okay. I get it.
There's
You
a very similar wall, maybe 6 or 7 houses further upriver on River Street. I didn't do the engineering of it, but that's where we got the details from, so that we're trying to match that wall. If anyone saw that get built, it was built probably 2 years ago.
I think we conditioned it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the block wall is going to get removed or get held back by all of this?
So this goes immediately in front of the cinder block wall, and then any of the loose cinder blocks and anything that we can remove on the back side of it, we would.
Okay.
I don't know how deep that wall goes into the ground.
Okay.
We're trying not to excavate down, but any of the loose block we would certainly remove from the top of it.
Got it. Okay.
Audience.
I think I asked that.
Nope.
No, you
Anybody in
didn't.
the audience? Nothing? Okay.
I'll make a motion to close.
It's a motion from Penny, a second from
Second from Jen.
Jen. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Cool. All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. So Westgate Lane, did
We
that
already
get,
moved it.
okay,
Yeah, we did, we took care of that.
thank you.
The next thing I think is 42 Brunswick Road, the existing, to
Amend
amend the
existing one.
existing
Oh, yeah.
order.
Okay, do we have anybody on for that? To explain that?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay,
Yeah, so this is the administrative portion of the request to amend an existing order. And you received the information from the engineer on what they're looking to do. But basically, what it is they had conditioned an addition advertised, we had a public hearing for an addition and elevate for a project. And it is actually a rebuild. So they need to amend their orders to accept the revised plans and go ahead. So they're change of project. So change of DEP project category, and this is just your discussion portion of it.
okay, and I think that the logic there was when the applicant came in, as Amy said, they were asking for an addition and to elevate, and now they've switched it to a total tear down. And so it seems appropriate to amend the orders. The footprint's gonna stay the same. So
But they should still advertise and come back in.
I think people that were expecting to see something happen, they should at least have the opportunity to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the advice, and we are gonna try to expedite that, Amy, if we can.
Do we vote on this?
No, it has to get
Yeah,
advertised.
as soon as we get it in, hard copies and checks, we'll put it on, we'll get it right on an agenda. So, which could be as early as the 25th or the following week of the October 2nd.
Anything we can do to move it on, I think it hopes to get this thing rolling.
Yeah.
At the end of the summer season, and it seems like we've already kind of run the gauntlet. It's that change, and if we could move that quickly, that'd be good. Okay. Did you guys go through the other things here?
Yes.
Yes.
The only thing left is you and your open space.
Wow. Does anybody else have any comments they want to make?
No.
Oh, well, first off, I was really happy to see Jake back on the
Mhm.
on the scene. And
Jake is living life large. Very large.
a couple of things. Last Thursday, Amy and I went to the advisory meeting to talk about our proposed funding for maintenance on our properties, and we were well received by the advisory board. They seem to have no qualms with this, and tomorrow night we're going to see the selectmen, and this is funding so that we can pay for our own maintenance of access areas, maybe improving trails at the Driftway Park, things that our volunteers aren't doing or aren't able to do. We have other properties that we really haven't touched much, like in the town forests and whatnot. So we're looking for those funds as opposed to, trying to either get volunteers for everything or DEP DPW when they can. So far so good. And we'll be seeing the selectmen. Do you have any idea what time tomorrow night yet, Amy?
You're 7:20.
Why didn't I ask Penny?
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, because I'm coming. You think I'm not gonna come?
She's back.
Yeah,
I'm all back. I'm all better.
there we go. Awesome. You should have seen her when she was on prednisone.
Oh.
Oh,
That's
We're all
scary.
glad it worked.
Frank makes the best chicken soup, everybody. If you're ever sick, give him a call.
I think you
saved my
should market it.
There we go.
It was so good, Frank. I mean, really, I can't. It was yummy.
So I hadn't really been paying attention to this, but at the advisory meeting after that, the advisory board was talking with an applicant that wants to remove the leash law. And it got into quite a discussion, and I think it's going to continue to go that way into town meeting. And it's something we don't have to bang it around tonight, but we have a policy that dogs should be on leashes, and I've gotten a little bit of feedback from our volunteers. And it's something maybe in the future we'll try to get together with some of our folks and talk about this some more for our own properties, whether we think we just want to have a leash law, whether we want to try to designate maybe an area to folks that want to let their dogs off. I'm surprised there are a lot of people that would like to have their dogs be able to run more open, and a lot of people that don't want it to happen. So it's something that we're going to have to address for our own properties as well. I do believe even if there's not a leash law for the town, that we can still have a leash law for our properties, and we set the policy for our properties. But
Can I just say
Yep.
something?
Sure.
Okay, yes, we do have a leash law in town. And in all honesty, the people that let their dogs loose on our properties, which many, many do, even down Driftway Park. I can't tell you when I go down there and all these people, these dogs are going in 10 different directions, which is all fine and dandy, but the public really needs to understand you are taking a risk, and you could be held responsible if your dog hurts another dog that is on a leash, or if it hurts a human being. You know, we can't, I know up the West End, it's awful hard to control them. You know, I personally, when I used to take my dogs up there, I just didn't want them to take off and run into something that was a little more ferocious than them. So they always stayed on my leash. But I do think society's different today, people. I think you're treading on very thin ice if you get rid of the leash law.
Well, let's I just want you guys to know that it's up and
Yeah.
coming, and folks, that's up and coming, and we'll be talking about it a little bit more. Got some great feedback from our trails volunteers. They were a little bit of cleanup of some different areas. They've been lugging some stuff out of the woods. They're still doing a great job. I mean, they go as far as to sweep the parking areas for trash and stuff on a regular basis. We're just so fortunate that they are doing that. I don't know, Brendan, if you got a chance to go, but they had a great fundraiser for North and South River Saturday night with Sit Stock.
I did.
They had a great but what was strange when I was there is looked up in the sky, and there's this whole long trail of bright lights like that went on forever. And like first I'm like, what the heck is happening? And then found out that it's part of Starlink.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody's caught that, but it was pretty
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that. That was
Yeah,
interesting.
it was neat. The last thing I'd kind of like, few years ago, we got together at the Mount Hope building as a group, and I'd like to try to do that again if we can figure out a time that might work. I'd like, obviously, for Jen and Amy to be there, maybe Craig Keefe if he's available.
Craig is doing a wonderful job, by the way, Frank.
Oh, he has, and the police department support for us in general has been and helpful. But I'd like to set something up. I don't know if the best thing is maybe to set up a little, put something out there and get some dates, float some dates.
I think that would be good.
So let's try to get that going. And does Mount Hope seem
Yeah,
like
it was good before.
Yeah, it's fine.
okay, because the other one might be the North Scituate location.
Oh, the stone building, yeah, we could
Yeah.
always do that
Couple
too.
of those. We'll work on it and see what's available.
Well, the stone building, nobody's ever using it, which is sad.
Yep.
That's a really nice one.
All right, well, let's figure out something, but why don't we'll start something going and see if that's a possibility. I
Be
think
nice.
it'd be great for us all just to be able to chat. I'm seeing two hands up, Adam Brodsky and Rob Carlazon. Did we forget somebody this evening? Somebody from
I
Grady?
don't think so. I'm thinking that Rob is on because he's wondering what's going on with 28 Kane orders.
Well, Adam's wondering about 42 Brunswick, but
And
I thought,
Adam's probably, yeah. So those are administrative items, Frank.
Already took care
Your
of 'em.
call.
what
We did
what
go through the whatever. We went through a bulk of the administrative items except for the amendment
all right, well,
prior to the public hearings.
why don't we just open it up for these two real quick?
Quick.
Okay.
Ask Rob what he's got.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. I just was staying on. I just wanted to make sure the order of conditions for 28 Kane Drive were approved. I missed the very
Yes.
beginning of the hearing. Okay, those are approved. Okay, and then I know our guy Paul Seberg and Adam Brodsky had I don't know, they wanted to ask a few questions or make a statement for 42 Brunswick Road as well.
Yeah, we're gonna prop Adam on next. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
We're going forward.
Okay, Adam Brodsky's on the line.
Good evening, Adam.
Good evening, Frank. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Great, thank you. I'm actually here on behalf of Michael Mangano, the owner of 42 Brunswick, who couldn't attend because he's out of the country. And I don't think an amendment is in order here, and I'd like to explain why. I understand that Grady was actually told to submit the amendment because they were also told that the project was not adequately described to the Conservation Commission in 2021. And so they actually did three things in their request for amendment. One, they want to change the plan title from plot plan for addition, that's in quotes, to site plan. On the plan itself, they want to remove the words proposed additions and add proposed dwelling. And they also did propose a minor change in the footprint of a proposed deck. I assume that the first two items were in response to the request from staff. Mr. Mangano was not aware that an amendment would require another public hearing. And as you indicated, he wants to move forward with this project as soon as possible. So he's authorized me to withdraw from the request the proposed deck changes. So really what you have are these changes in the titles to the plans. But what you should know is that the plans themselves don't change. And I don't think this is candidly necessary, but if you wanted to simply change those labels on the plans, that can be done administratively by correcting the order and doesn't require an amendment. As you know, DEP's amendment policy does recognize corrected orders when there's really a clerical error, and that's what we're talking about here. And that doesn't require a public hearing.
Adam, can I can I clarify one thing? Because
Yeah.
you're saying we're just going to change the heading on some stuff, but my understanding is that what we approved was to elevate a home and add on to it.
No, sir.
And now the applicant is requesting to demolish the house.
Nope.
What?
So that's not actually the case. It was actually presented accurately in June 21. There was a mistake in the cover letter for the notice of intent package and ultimately the notice to abutters. It did indicate that they were proposing an addition rather than a raise and reconstruction. However, when it was presented to the Conservation Commission, Heidi Condon was there together with Tim Bennett, and they specifically described the project as a proposed raise and rebuild. I actually went through, I watched the video, I read the minutes, I reviewed all of the documents, which by the way, included architectural plans, which showed the reconstruction that were included in that. And Ms. Condon informed the commission that it was a raise and rebuild, had mentioned to the Conservation Commission that the ZBA had approved the project. And actually, if you look at the ZBA decision, it describes it as a raise and reconstruction of a single family home. And in fact, Frank, when you questioned Ms. Condon whether the project involved a new structure, she confirmed again that it was a raise and rebuild. And this is all reflected in the video and in the minutes. So I think there was clearly a mistake in the transmittal letter and the notice to the butters, but the project was actually presented as a raise and reconstruction. And you asked questions regarding that. By the way, there were 8 letters from abutters in support, and only one abutter, Susan O'Brien, attended. And she had no problem with the project. You may remember that she was advocating for cement piers and not pilings, because she was concerned that driven piles would damage her house. Apparently she had some prior damage related to other projects. And so again, I think there's a misconception here that they're changing the project. It's the exact same project that Heidi and Tim presented to the commission. But now after the fact, 2 years later, they're seeming, I got involved actually, not because of this issue, but because there was a concern that the project had been put on hold and Mr. Vogel wasn't authorized to issue a building permit because there were concerns regarding the lattice and the garage door shown on the architectural plans. And ultimately, when I spoke to Mr. Vogel, he told me that, yeah, he was releasing the demo permit. The applicant had yet to file the building permit for the house, but he was in agreement that the use of lattice and that garage door is permissible within the velocity zone under the state building code. And in fact, I had sent him an excerpt from the FEMA free of obstruction guidance for that. So I don't really know what's going on. I don't really know why this has to be done. And again, the client really doesn't want to have another public hearing to discuss this project.
Amy, can I just get some clarification? We got an application submitted by the applicant 2 years ago with their engineers. What does the application say?
It's for an addition and an elevation. So that's in the NOI and the narrative and on the site plans. And so the site plan that was shown.
So Adam, why?
Yeah.
Okay, so Adam, why would they submit an application for an addition and elevate?
Because they made a mistake, Frank, in the cover letter.
Okay, but that's not what went out to the abutters. So by amending these orders, we're going to clarify that.
But the abutters, the plans didn't change. The substantive plans didn't change, Frank. It was simply a label on the plans and the word proposed addition in the cover letter. The plans that were actually reviewed by the commission and the abutters were for a raise and reconstruction, including the architectural plans. And that was clarified at the public hearing. And the people who reviewed the plans, the abutters, wrote letters in support. So there's no need for additional public notice here.
And what did the applicant pay for in terms of fees for?
I don't know, but if they owe any additional money, we'll have a check written to the Conservation Commission for any additional fees. But to conduct a new public hearing to amend orders simply to change those labels on the plans, it's not a good use of anyone's time.
It's been so long, I don't truly remember. I remember a little
But
bit.
it came in as a category 1 addition project, not a category 4 raise rebuild, which is a different fee structure. Yeah.
I mean, if anyone looked at the architectural plans, they're full-blown raise and reconstruction plans. So I mean, I'm not blaming staff or the commission. And as I said, I think Grady made a mistake in the original filing, but what was presented and discussed at the public hearing was a raise and reconstruction. And I've got notes from the public hearing. And Frank, you specifically asked this question during the public hearing.
It's been so long, I truly don't remember that.
Yeah. So Frank, is this a new structure? And Heidi responds, yes, it's a raise and rebuild.
I think Amy and Jen have to pull the stuff tomorrow and get back to Adam. I mean, we're
Well-
not gonna solve it tonight until somebody in our office sees this in black and white, what Adam is saying.
So if, let me just, if we feel that Adam is correct in this, or it proves out that Attorney Brodsky is correct, can we do a minor modification to those orders without the vote of the commission, Amy?
No, I mean, if you look at the amendment policy, it's so
Wonder if it is an amendment.
an amendment, like, you can correct an order if it's in, this is direct from the policy. I sent you the policy earlier. Obvious mistakes such as citing a wrong file number or typographical error it can be accomplished by correction of the orders, but this is 2 years later. In other cases, following procedures should be taken, which is, you would evaluate whether this is even an amendment or a new project, but you would proceed with a public hearing. And I think, Frank, you summed it up in the beginning correctly, that it was, you guys, despite the conversation going towards like including words which indicated it might be a raise rebuild, they are words during a public hearing that did not match the plan or the narrative. So if you were really just studying what was on our website, what was advertised in the newspaper, what was on the screen during the hearing, you're all led down the trail that this was an addition. We're just cleaning up the plans. It's not a change, just like a word on the plan. You're getting a revised plan date with a revised plan set. Although at the end of the day, it is an elevate. You know what I mean? We like the project because they're putting piles in the ground, and you're going to get the structure in the garage, basement out of there, and you're going to get your movement of your barrier beach and primary coastal dune. So,
well, I guess I'm not. I agree that it should have been something different, but at the same token, if all these questions came up and I made the statement, is this a raise and rebuild? And the answer was yes. I don't understand why 2 years ago we didn't rectify this.
yeah,
Frank,
I think
this
that's
is-
where
I'm
the
sorry.
engineer should have followed through with the corrected plans. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Adam Brodsky. I candidly don't think you need to do anything because the plans are accurate except for the labels. And what was displayed and discussed during the public hearing was the raise and rebuild. I don't even know why this issue is raised, but it is raised. And I think the appropriate way of dealing with it is not to put the burden on the homeowner regarding this. Is simply, if you want plans that say site plans instead of proposed addition, we'll give you those plans. You correct the order. I think it can be done administratively. The policy doesn't say, when you do this. This issue just came up apparently. We still have another year on this valid order. And again, if the commission wants additional fees, I don't think that's a problem. I just, after watching the video, it's crystal clear to me that what was reviewed and approved by the commission was a raise and rebuild. And as I said, I mean, if there were butters who are vehemently opposed to the project, I could see some sensitivity, but it's pretty rare to get 8 letters in support of a raise and rebuild, in this portion of Scituate.
Okay. I think given the information that you just presented with us, I mean, we can toss this around to members, or basically we can review this in the office, and if Adam's correct, then we can you'll be able to move forward. If not, the commission's already given their opinion to amend it, which would come at the next meeting. Does anybody else want to weigh in on this evening? Any other members?
I spoke my piece.
This is Andy. I'm looking at the plan, I believe, and that was prepared before the meeting. I mean, it's not quite as simple. I don't believe this is being presented. Like there is a label, there's an arrow pointing to a section saying 1-story addition, 5 feet by 10 feet. There's another label, 12 feet by 18 feet, 2-story addition. So, I mean, it may well have been, Frank, that you said that in the hearing, and it was sort of clarified as one data point, but there's a contradictory data point that people would have been looking at, and I could see where there'd be confusion. And that if it is a raise and rebuild, I think it's pretty inaccurately and meaningfully mislabeled in the plan. So it seems to me like people didn't really get a look, or I can understand if they didn't understand what the project was.
And Frank, I don't disagree with that. The plan, looking at the plan alone, would create confusion, which is why those questions were asked at the public hearing. And again, if you look at the architectural plans that were submitted, it's pretty apparent what is being proposed.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. Anybody else?
Frank, I'm just listening to all of this. It seems to me, I can totally understand what the Attorney Brodsky is saying, but there seems to be several situations here involved in this where there's misunderstandings. They may be minor of nature. They may end up being really trivial in nature, but I think we open ourselves up to a lot of potential issues down the road if we don't get them all straightened out. And if it takes 2 weeks to have another hearing and make sure they're all straightened out and correct, I frankly would favor that. I don't like to see someone delayed, but on the other hand, it's already waited 2 years to get going.
What's the rush?
I would just thank you.
I think that's well said.
Yeah, I would simply like to add, just to be clear, that with respect to request for amendment, the only issues that can be addressed in a request for amendment are the items that are the subject of the request for amendment. So if the commission's going to conduct another public hearing, that public hearing would be limited to the labeling of the plans and presumably the deck change. So I imagine that the client may very well want to talk to you about reconfiguring the decks if he has to go through a public hearing. But the commission shouldn't reopen the entire project for reconsideration on a request for amendment.
Well, it's not a new NOI. This is an amendment. And we'll review the plans and we'll try to do our best to decipher what people would or would not have anticipated. And I'll take some time to review what we did at the meeting. I don't have the benefit of that tonight. So
Yes, sir.
I'm
Yeah,
not gonna.
the video would be very helpful. I believe this hearing starts on the video at hour 2 hours, 14 minutes, something like that. And you can listen to and see the video.
okay. All right.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for your
Thank you, Adam.
to the Zoom.
I'm glad we got to the end. Appreciate it. Okay. Anybody else?
Nope.
I'm
I think
looking
we're all happy.
I'm looking for the most critical motion.
The most critical. I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
We meet again in 2 weeks.
I will second that.
Thanks, Brendan. All in favor? Richard,
Yes.
Doug, can I do this
Get
from memory?
a quick look at Jake before we go.
Where Jake went to.
Okay.
I'm gonna send
Yeah.
you a picture. I've got to talk to you, Doug. You're not gonna believe what he did.
Jen,
I'm
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
and Brendan.
Yes.
Great. Thanks so much. Thank
Good
you.
Good night, guys.
good. All right. Good night, everyone.
Hi.
Have a good
thank
one.
you.
Thanks.
I'm
Thank you.
calling you, Doug.
Okay.
You are in for a treat.